I'm Gary and I'm an alcoholic. Thanks, Blake. It's always an honor to speak to this group. It's very, very special to me. I got sober in Baltimore August 5th, 1991. I didn't do things the way I recommend that people do them. You know, when I talk to a newcomer or am at the newcomers meeting, I always recommend getting a sponsor, getting a home group, starting to go through the big book right away, going to a lot of meetings. I didn't do any of those things when I came in. I struggled with whether I was an alcoholic or not. I had a real big meeting near my home. 80 or so people would go to it, so it was very easy, even to slip past the greeters, because there were so many people they wouldn't necessarily know everyone in a sort of bigger place like Baltimore. And I spent a couple months going primarily that meeting, sitting in the back, not introducing myself, not asking for help, and listening. And it wasn't really an easy couple months. I didn't drink during that time, but it wasn't easy because I wasn't working the steps and I didn't feel connected. But I was very attracted to all the stories I heard. And I then did get a sponsor, and it was the best thing I ever did. I picked him because he spoke frequently, and every time he would speak, he would do two things. He would say something very, very funny that everybody would laugh, and then he would always end with something deadly serious. And both of those things attracted me because this is a program we have to enjoy. I thought, when I was drinking, I could not imagine my life being sober. I couldn't imagine my life not drinking. It would be no fun at all because everything I did, I drank during. And so when I could see from Bill that he enjoyed life, that was very attractive to me. But the other piece was also important because he would always share a story of something that made us realize this is a matter of life and death. And I've lost now 2 sponsees due to this disease. I found out just this week, I guess ex-sponsee is the right name because he and I both moved from Maryland, a man that I 12-stepped before he was ready. He got quite angry at me. And then 6 months later, he reached out to me, wanted to get sober, and he was the happiest sober man I've ever met. And full of life and energy, and asked me to speak through Zoom at his home group in Florida. And I heard this week he passed away. I asked how and when. No one knew because he was living alone. His wife didn't want him around. He had started drinking, and so I don't know why he died. But it is a deadly serious disease. And Bill would always remind me of those two things. This is fun, but this is serious. And I thought that was very important. He got me to work the steps. I felt completely comfortable with him. And he was someone I could always, ask things of. Back in the day, way before cell phones, he was a conductor for the train. He'd take it up to New York every day, and he'd always, when I have a break, he'd call me. I actually assumed he called me on a cell phone to remember we didn't have cell phones, so I don't know if you got a pay phone or I don't know. But anyway, he'd call me every day and check in on me. He was that committed to me. And I usually ask sponsees to call me, but he was my sponsor and he called me. And just a great, a great guy. And I think having a sponsor is important for working the steps, obviously. It's important to have someone you can ask questions of when you're new and don't maybe understand everything about the program. It's important when you have something really you want to share and there's no one else you could share it with. I think with the men that I've sponsored, I probably knew them more about them than literally any person in the world. They would share things with me that they wouldn't share with their wife or their brother or their parents, whatever the case may be, sometimes. And it was a very intimate and very personal relationship. And I don't know which is more important. I would both are very important. Have a good sponsor, work the steps, but also the role of being a sponsor is very, very important. I remember when actually the sponsee who told me that Bill had passed, when he got finished at 12 steps, he said, "What do I do now?" I said, "Now you find someone to sponsor." He said, "I'm not ready." I said, "Yes, you are." and then he found someone to sponsor, and thought that was, such an experience of growth, and it is. And if any of you are working through the steps and not quite finished, I think that's something to look forward to when you're finished, to find someone to sponsor, or God will bring the right person in your life at the right time. So I'm very grateful for all the sponsors that I've had. I've had probably 1, 2, 3, 4. Steve is not only my sponsor, but my best friend here, and that's really important to me because I have no family in town, and he's my sponsor. He's like my brother too, and that's really, really important to me. Home groups, there's not really the concept of sponsorship as such, I think, is not discussed in Big Book. They talked about meetings, but I don't think the topic of home group is addressed, and so there may be no right or wrong about it, except I'll conclude with this at the end. This is right. This is how home groups are supposed to happen. I was in a number of different home groups in Baltimore, and I guess particularly when I started that meeting I went to in the beginning when Bill became my sponsor, he said, great, first thing you're going to do is you're going to start making a coffee. And it was one of those meetings, our pot was about 3 times bigger than that one, so you had to get there like yesterday to make it for the meeting. You had to set up 80 chairs in the hall, not all by myself, but everybody else would come early and help, and men and women. And I think I ended up making coffee for 15 years actually. I couldn't get fired from that. I guess maybe my coffee was too good. I don't know. But he got me involved, and that's one thing a sponsor does. Not only work through the steps, answer your questions, but he gets you connected. We didn't go on road trips in Baltimore like we do here, but because every night of the week there were 5 meetings within 10 minutes of my house. You didn't need to drive an hour and a half, and traffic was so bad you would never know when to leave to get there. But Bill would say, let's go to this meeting. I want you to hear this person speak, and he'd get me to some different meetings that I wouldn't normally get to. And he's still alive, and probably has certainly over 40 years. I don't know how many he has now. But home groups, I was not in a home group like this up there. To me, my experience of a home group was, it was a place I made a commitment to go to almost every meeting. So that Monday night meeting, I went every Monday night until I moved to a different part of town, and then the Monday night meeting became a home group, and I made the coffee there. And then Brenda and I went to a 6:30 a.m. meeting, and I went there pretty much literally every Monday through Friday, pretty much without fail, and that was important to me about a home group. And then, if one didn't show up at your home group, someone would reach out to you. It gave you some accountability, but some support. And having gone through a stretch of missing meetings here, if we're in town and we don't have family visiting us from out of town, we're here every Monday and Thursday without fail. So I haven't tested it, but I suspect if I went 2 weeks without coming to meetings, someone is likely to reach out to me. And that's really, really important. In Baltimore, we had something called, we didn't have a business meeting, we had something called a group conscience, and when someone was annoyed about something, wanted to change something, we'd have what we called a group conscience. And they were usually fine, but it would be a discussion. I think I've heard John share some of his experiences were a little different maybe, but ours were usually okay. We talk about crosstalk. One time we even had to write what crosstalk was and wasn't, made a big sign and put it up, little things like that. And that was important, and everybody would try to come to the group conscience to be announced for a week or two. And there was service that was done, going to the jails and such, but it wasn't organized like it was here. And when I moved here, I was excited about coming to this area for a lot of reasons. And the only thing I had a slight trepidation about was my AA program, because I had 5 or 6 sponsees in Baltimore. I knew every meeting. I knew everybody at every meeting. After 30 years, that's kind of how it is. I came here and I didn't know anybody. We have no family in town. And I went to some other meetings. It didn't really click with me. And I came into this meeting, and of course, not surprisingly, Steve grabbed me by the hand, made me feel welcome, introduced me. And then I don't know what happened the next Monday night. I walked in at 7:30. I didn't know why, 7:25. I didn't know why the meeting had already started. Steve still found a way to welcome me. And I just felt at home. I felt at home. And first time at a business meeting, it kind of scratched my head. I didn't know what that even meant. But the organization we have, the service we do, Brenda and I love going to detox, and it's just such a great way to carry the message. It's also a great way for me to stay sober. And I think that's very, very important. And I know, what Daniel does with the prisons and the jails, and going down to Samaritan Colony, all these things we do, CPCPI, speaking to probation or different groups. It's amazing how much we do. And I used to be a big believer of 90 meetings in 90 days, and I think Steve has made the point to me, and I'm coming around a bit. I agree with what he said, that really what's more important is supporting your home group, getting involved, and carrying the message in different ways. Meetings are great, but sitting at a meeting and listening is really not what the program is about. There was a man in Baltimore that we love named Jim, and Jim used to say that's like getting cancer, going into the room where they're giving out oncology and watching people get their treatments. And that's really true. Just coming in and just listening, I don't think will keep you sober. It's not for me to say, you may, but I think what's really important, what really makes a difference is getting connected with people, working the steps, and carrying the message to other people, not just through sponsorship, which is wonderful, super helpful, but also through all the other things that we do. And, whether it's social, like at Reservoir Lake, or program related. So I just find that these two things are so critical to my sobriety, having a sponsor, being a sponsor. And I think the key to me about being a sponsor is it keeps me sober kind of no matter what. Brenda and I lost really probably our best friend in Baltimore. Went out. No one really knew he went out because he still went to meetings and no one knew. And he ended up committing suicide. And it was terribly tragic and shocking, just shocking. And he was my sponsee, but not long before that happened, he asked if it was okay if he got a different sponsor, and he did. But I think somehow during that handoff, no one really knew what was going on. And having a sponsor helps to keep us really connected, holds us accountable, get all of our questions answered. And so if any of you are new and don't have a sponsor, I really encourage you to find one as soon as possible. And if you're new and haven't picked a home group yet, put your name on the board and we'll get you signed up. Because I think for so many people I know that I've seen come into this meeting and make it their home, they take off. They take off. All those folks who have 1 year and 2 years, I've seen them take off at this meeting because they're connected. They're part of a community of sober people. So thanks very much for letting me share.
I'm Matt. I'm an alcoholic. Thanks, Gary. Thanks, Blake, for inviting me to be up here. It is truly a privilege and an honor to be of service to this home group, and really it's a miracle to be invited to things like this and to even be sober today, for sure. And I'm excited to talk about two really big parts of that, which were and have been home group and sponsorship. I think it's worth noting this is probably the most nervous I've been doing any kind of AA service in a long time, and I think that's because of how much this home group, my sponsor, and the people in this home group mean to me. And I've had some time to reflect on it, and it has completely changed my life. The person that stands here behind the podium is in no way the person that walked through the doors the first time I came to this meeting. And that's That's the promise of Alcoholics Anonymous. I'm not here to reinvent the wheel. I'm just here to give you my experience with the path that is laid out, that my sponsor laid out for me. And it's available to anybody. And I think really my job here and my hope here tonight is that anybody on the cusp of buying in, so to speak, right? Not sure about the sponsorship thing, not sure about the home group thing, not sure about the AA thing, or certainly the God thing. My hope is that maybe I can be the last shove and get them over the cliff and have them reach out to somebody, because I'm glad that Alcoholics Anonymous never gave up on me. So yeah, I'll start off with this. To my sponsor's amazement, I am sober today. I guess to my own a little bit too. I got sober on June 11th, 2023. As an alcoholic, it's probably important that I qualify myself just a very little bit, and I think I can sum that up pretty good in one story. And it has to do with that sobriety date. I'm not good with dates at all. Like, I know my daughter's birthday is June 2nd, 2023. I think. But like when we go to the doctor and they're like, what's her birthday? I'm like, on the phone, I have no idea. But this date it has some significance, and the reason is because that Sunday, after I had checked into detox, was the 2023 U.S. Open, which was here in Pinehurst. I actually had tickets to it to go with my family, which was supposed to be a really special thing. The year prior to that, I had been drinking and using behind everybody's back. The kind of drinking and using where I would go to bed, and I would pray to God to give me the strength to stop doing what I was doing, to stop lying to people, to stop hurting people. I mean, I had a not even 1-year-old daughter at the time. And I was rushing back from the med cart to get from the medicine that I needed just to feel okay in that detox, to get back into my room so that I could watch the end of the 2023 U.S. Open. And I remember Bryson hitting his drive on 18 fairway and hitting a not-so-great shot into the bunker, and then hitting what is now a famous bunker shot on 18 and making the subsequent putt to win the U.S. Open. And I bawled my eyes out on that bed in that detox. And it wasn't because Bryson made the putt. That didn't have much to do with it. That's just how I remember it. But man, I was 30 years old. Okay, the first drink I'd ever taken was at 11 years old. And since that day, essentially, I've been fighting with this disease. And here I was, in the umpteenth rehab, with a daughter at home, with a job I had completely walked out on, with a family that has just believed in me time and time again that I had completely let down, and just with nothing to show for life. And I felt a new low, I guess is what they call it. I'm going to do my best to give Amelia plenty of time here. So.
No worries.
This one goes late anyway. So yeah, that sums up my alcoholism, man. I was a bad case, and things were not good. Sponsorship and home group. So my first experience with home group is kind of a funny story. My first home group was Young People in Alcoholics Anonymous in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. We met every Monday at 8 p.m., late night meeting. I'm going to tell you right now, if you think that your home group's business meetings are disorganized or wild, I think we had 2 people in there who knew what the traditions were. And our biggest topic every time was what chants we could say and couldn't say at the beginning of meetings. But nonetheless, I was a 17-year-old kid, man, and it did everything that a home group still does for me today. It gave me a place to belong. Right, it gave me some accountability, and I love that home group still to this day. What I will say about, and I had a sponsor there too, both of these things, while they're so important and have been instrumental in my sobriety, alone they're not enough to keep me sober. It doesn't matter how good the sponsor or the home group is. What I've found is a lot of it comes down to my willingness to do what my sponsor is asking me to do what my home group expects of me, and to build and nurture a relationship with a higher power. If I'm not doing all of that in unison, my historical evidence is that alcohol wins every single time. And I've got quite a bit of that evidence, as some of you might also have. So anyway, I teeter-totter back and forth, sobriety, drinking, and, I make it to that detox room. And when I get out of there, my first sponsor was down in Florida, man, and he didn't say anything to me that sponsors hadn't said before. He just, he told me what he had been through. He asked me what I was willing to do to stay sober, and he told me what he was going to expect of me if he was going to be my sponsor. The only difference is what I did in relation to that. I met up with that man. I read through the book with that man, and he showed me how to go through the steps of Alcoholics Anonymous. I remember very early on, he did say something to me that I hadn't heard before, and he said his primary job was to turn me into a sponsor. That he was trying to get my hand in the hand of God's so that I might do the same for somebody else one day. And that was profound to hear. And man, has it come true. He also encouraged me to get a home group, which I didn't do. And that had its consequences. I had this great sponsor who was taking me to detoxes and showing me what to do. But spiritually, something was still missing. There was still a level of inclusiveness that I didn't have in my life. I was still lonely in a lot of ways. And one thing led to another, and I ended up back here in Pinehurst, North Carolina. And when I got here, I had no intentions of getting a sponsor or a home group. I had been through the steps after all. I was sober now, and, I was looking for sponsees, basically. After all, he told me that was his job, and we had completed the steps. And so I would go to meetings, and I would sound angry. And there was one face that I had recognized from before I moved. And somehow he knew my name. Like, I didn't know his name, certainly. And he would shake my hand, and he would welcome me. And it felt like every meeting that I went to, this one or otherwise, he was there. So I knew he was retired. And unlike Gary, he's not my best friend. I barely like him. But that man didn't force himself on me. He just talked to me. He just opened his arms for me. He probably knew that I was struggling more than I knew I was struggling. And he made himself available. He made sure to get my phone number and to send me text messages, man. And he got me through the early days of that transition, much like Gary, where you're not really quite set in. And I certainly wasn't. And he was there. And he heard me out. And the big thing about that sponsor is how heavily he recommended this meeting. And if you haven't been here, most of you have, or if this is your first time, I was in the bathroom for the chips, or you're unsure, or whatever. This meeting, for me, has done, I guess, really basically three fundamental things in my sobriety. The first thing early on is it gave me a place to belong, right? My experience was that every time I parked and walked through those doors, or even before, really, I felt included, like this was a good spot for me to be, like I had a purpose here. Even though I wasn't doing anything for the home group, there was just 5, 6, 7 people that were always out there shaking hands, remembering names, doing the things that Alcoholics Anonymous has given us a gift to do. The other thing was accountability, and that came a little bit later once I kind of committed to the home group and started showing up more and, made it known that I was in the home group. Funny story about the home group. We always talk about how organized this home group is. Well, my first 3-4 months, I would come to a business meeting, they'd be talking about different lists, and why I wasn't getting the newsletter and the business meeting notes, and I was like, how many lists can there be, and why am I not on one of them? I've given my email 6 times. But they consolidated the list, so that's good if you sign up. There's only one list, I think, now. Yeah, the list. We'll talk about the list later. But anyway, it gave me some accountability in my life, and so did the sponsor, really. And he's a member of this home group. And when I say accountability, yes, there's that aspect of if I don't show up, somebody texts me. But it's also like, how am I behaving at home when I'm talking to those guys before the meeting, and we're going through my life, especially with my sponsor. There's a lot of accountability in that, because if I'm honest, they're going to be honest back with me, and see some things that I don't see, and that's a huge benefit of having a home group. And then the other part of that is it gave me a place to be vulnerable. I'm plagued by fear. My ego ran my life for a long time, and so being honest to people wasn't a strong suit of mine. I was out to put a mask on and put a show on in hopes that you would like me or be impressed by me. Having a home group, slowly but surely, those walls started to come down. And by being vulnerable in the meetings especially, there was an intense connection with God through doing that, right? Because it was like I was finally not the person that it talks about who's constitutionally incapable of being honest with themselves. Because that's who I was for a long time in my life. And a home group was a bunch of people that was my first step in being honest with myself and others. I remember just hearing that in readings. I don't think we read that here. Do we read that here? But anyway, it talks about the fact that some people are constitutionally incapable of being honest with themselves and others, when it's referring to people who might not get this thing. And I just thought I fell under that category. And because the home group gave me a place to be vulnerable, as well as a sponsor, man, there's so many parallels, right? Because the first time I really did that was with my sponsor in the 5th step. And that was, I don't know, that changed everything for me. I had some stuff that I just thought I was going to take to the grave with me. And getting that off your chest. And it wasn't even like alcoholic stuff. It was stuff long before that I'd carried for 30 years at that point, or whatever it was. And so a sponsor being somebody that through the steps up to that point, I gained the trust that I could tell these things to, and that it was in my best interest to do so was huge. So again, just kind of a parallel along with the home group giving me a place to be vulnerable. And then now in my second year of sobriety, the most important thing that I get from this home group to me right now is the opportunity to serve other alcoholics. Especially within this home group, we do a very good job, in my humble opinion, of putting committees together to go out there and find sick and suffering alcoholics and be helpful to them. I've done things that I didn't even know were part of Alcoholics Anonymous as a result of this home group. Talking to CEOs, man, the only time before this home group that I talked to a CEO was when one called me into the office in Lebanon County Jail and told me that if I didn't get in my bunk, I was going to the hole. He said some other things, but this is recorded, so. So yeah, it gives me an opportunity to do that in a lot of different ways, right? Like that's like the committee, the meeting after the meeting way, but the other way is like if you come here, you see everybody, and then you notice who's new, and like that's the bread and butter of the program, is working with new alcoholics. And to be honest with you, I don't have any sponsees right now, and that's okay. I mean, I've got to assume that that's God's will, right? And that's okay with me. I have had the pleasure of sponsoring guys, and I look forward to that next opportunity, and I feel prepared because of what my sponsor and this home group has taught me. And so I guess, again, Amelia is going to need her time. When I think about it, as the big picture, if I kind of zoom out, again, no one piece of the puzzle is going to keep me sober, at least not in a meaningful way where I have a purposeful life and I'm happy, joyous, and free. But my sponsor and my home group are the two things that I can take immediate action the day that I walk into Alcoholics Anonymous. If you have that gift of desperation and you don't know where to go next. It doesn't feel easy, if that's you. And I guess it's not. But it is simple. And no matter who you ask to be your sponsor or where you want your home group to be, if it's Alcoholics Anonymous and that member is in Alcoholics Anonymous, I promise you they want you to ask. And they want to help you, and I want to help you. So, again, my biggest hope is just that, even if it's one person that's just close but not all the way there, man, my words might get you a little bit closer to that big step. And I'll end with this. My sponsors, most of them, have all told me what it means to be a sponsor and what it's not to be a sponsor. And they all take extra time to tell me that they're not going to be my bankers, because I think when I come in here, I look a little bit financially disheveled. But I guess the flip side of that coin, right, is like, the flip side of that coin is my sponsor, no matter how good of a guy he actually is, despite what I've said prior to this, I can't depend on him. He has put me in a position to rely on a power greater than myself. That's the gift he's given me. And he's made it clear that it's not him, man. And so, I don't know. This program's super cool. It's a miracle. Everybody sitting here who's sober is a miracle. And thanks for letting me share.